You're dying of thirst in the middle of a desert. There is no water in sight, no river, no lake, no rain for months. And yet somehow you're about to drink. This is not a survival fantasy. For tens of thousands of years, this was Tuesday. Your ancestors did not have canteens. They did not have maps or weather forecasts. What they had was a set of tricks so strange, so clever, and so specific that most of them sound like fiction. They are not fiction. They are the reason you exist. Let's start with the water in the Kalahari Desert. One of the driest places on Earth, the Sand People have survived for generations using a method that looks almost like magic. They find the swollen underground stem of a plant called a sama melon, or they dig for water-storing roots buried deep enough to escape the sun. Some groups store rainwater inside empty ostrich eggs, buried nose down in the sand, marked with a small pile of stones only they can read. An ostrich egg can hold close to 1.5 liters. Buried and capped, that water stays drinkable for months. Anthropologist Richard Lee documented exactly how precise this system was in his 1960s fieldwork with the Ju/Huanzi San. He calculated something that stunned Western observers. Hunter-gatherers in this environment often worked fewer hours per week gathering food and water than a modern office employee spends commuting. Survival, it turns out, was not always a desperate scramble. Sometimes it was a system, a quiet, practiced, almost boring routine, refined over thousands of years until it stopped looking like effort at all. But water is only the beginning. What about food? Here is where it gets strange. Early humans did not just hunt, they outthought their prey. Consider persistence hunting. A human cannot outrun an antelope in a sprint, not even close. But over 5, 6, sometimes 8 hours in the heat of the day, something changes. Antelope overheat. Humans do not because of a feature almost no other large mammal has: millions of sweat glands across bare skin. While the animal is forced to stop and pant in the shade, the hunter keeps walking. Slowly, relentlessly. Eventually, the animal collapses from heat exhaustion, and the hunt is over without a single weapon being thrown. Evolutionary biologist Louis Liebenberg spent years tracking this behavior among modern sand hunters in Namibia and Botswana, and what he found was not brute endurance, it was forensic tracking. Hunters could read a single displaced pebble, a bent blade of grass, the depth of a hoofprint in soft sand, and reconstruct an animal's size, speed, and injury from meters away. This is not instinct. This is one of the oldest forms of science on the planet, taught patiently from adult to child, generation after generation. Now picture the reconstruction. It's dawn on the savannah. The grass is gold, still cool from the night. A hunter crouches at a faint print in the dirt, tilts his head and reads it like a sentence. He does not speak. He points 2 fingers forward, then holds up 3. 3 others fall in behind him, without a word. They have done this 1,000 times. By midday, under a blazing sun, they are still walking, patient as the shadow of a tree. Fire changed everything else, not just for warmth, and not just for keeping predators at bay, though it did both. Fire changed food itself. Cooking breaks down tough proteins and starches, making them dramatically easier to digest, which means more usable calories from the exact same piece of meat or root. Primatologist Richard Wrangham built an entire theory around this idea, arguing that cooked food didn't just feed early humans, it fed their brains. Raw food takes enormous energy to digest. Cooked food frees that energy up. Wrangham's hypothesis suggests that the moment ancestral humans mastered fire for cooking, they effectively unlocked the calorie budget needed to grow the very brain you're using to understand this sentence. There's a twist buried in all of this, and it's uncomfortable. You'd assume that as humans developed better tools, sharper spears, stronger fire control, cleverer traps, life got dramatically safer. In some ways, it did. But archaeological evidence tells a stranger story. When humans eventually shifted from foraging to farming roughly 10,000 years ago, skeletal remains show something unexpected. Bones from early farming communities are often shorter, more malnourished, and more disease-riddled than the hunter-gatherers who came before them. Farming produced more food, but less varied food, and it packed people into dense, unsanitary settlements next to livestock. which became breeding grounds for entirely new diseases. In other words, one of the strangest survival tricks of all wasn't a tool or a technique. It was knowing when not to change. Foraging societies had already solved nutrition, mobility, and disease exposure through variety and movement. Agriculture solved storage and population growth, but at a real physical cost that shows up in bones dug up thousands of years later. Clothing tells a similarly hidden story. Genetic research on human body lice, conducted by biologist Mark Stoneking, gave scientists an unlikely tool for dating something with no fossil record. Body lice can only survive in clothing, not on bare skin, which means the moment humans started wearing clothes, a new evolutionary branch of lice split off to live in it. By comparing the genetic divergence between head lice and body lice, Stoneking's team estimated that humans started wearing clothing somewhere around 170,000 years ago, likely as a way to survive colder climates as populations pushed out of Africa. An insect, of all things, helped pin down one of the most important survival innovations in human history. None of these tricks were flashy. That's the strange part. There was no single dramatic invention that saved early humans. It was 1,000 small calibrations, knowing which root holds water, knowing which track means a wounded animal, knowing how long meat needs near a flame before it stops being dangerous and starts being nutrition, knowing when to stay put and when to move. This knowledge did not live in books. It lived in bodies, passed hand to hand, story to story, walk to walk, for hundreds of generations. And here's the mirror. You still carry pieces of this. Your body still sweats to cool itself on a hot day. A survival trick inherited from ancestors who used it to outlast prey. Your craving for salt, for fat, for sugar, all of it was calibrated in a world where those things were rare and precious, not sitting in a vending machine down the hall. Your instinct to notice a small detail out of place, a strange sound, an object slightly moved, is a faint echo of a tracker reading a bent blade of grass. You are not separate from that world. You are its continuation, walking around in modern clothes, still running ancient software. You were dying of thirst in the middle of a desert with no water in sight, and somehow you were about to drink. Not because of luck, because somewhere behind you, quietly for a few 100,000 years, someone was paying very, very close attention.